One common way of studying human emotion is to obtain self-reports from participants to quantify their current feelings or average feelings over a longer period of time. These are referred to as measures of affect or measures of emotion. Even though some affect measures contain variations that allow assessment of basic predispositions to experience a certain emotion, tests for such stable traits are usually considered to be personality tests. Measures of general affect PANAS equals. One frequently used measure for general affective states is the positive and negative affect schedule. Participants completing the PANAS are asked to rate the extent to which they experienced each out of 20 emotions on a 5-point Likert scale ranging from a very slightly to a very much a. The exact instructions may vary according to the purpose of the study. Participants may be asked how they feel right now or during longer periods of time. Half of the presented emotion words concern negative affect, the other half positive affect. The PANAS is usually regarded as a reliable measure for non-clinical populations. PANAS-X, the expanded version of PANAS, is called PANAS-X and includes 60 instead of 20 emotion words. The instructions and the answer format are identical to the short PANAS. However, PANAS-X not only measures general positive and negative affect, but also 4 basic negative emotions, 3 basic positive emotions, and 4 more complex affective states. The internal consistency for all of these scales can be regarded sufficient, that is, people report that they experience all emotions that make up one of the scales with similar strength. The manual of the PANAS-X offers further extensive psychometric information. IPANAS-SF, the International Positive and Negative Affect Schedule short form, is a shortened version of the PANAS, intended to only contain cross-culturally well-understandable emotion words. In contrast to an earlier ad hoc created short forms of the PANAS, the IPANAS-FX has been developed in a multi-study procedure including studies with participants from 16 countries. In the IPANAS-SF, positive affect is measured using the words active, alert, attentive, determined and inspired. Negative affect is measured with the words afraid, ashamed, hostile, nervous and upset. The IPANAS-SF is intended for general use in research situations where either time or space is limited, and for international use with participants whose native language is not English. STEM equals, the state trait emotion measure is a more recently constructed measure that is explicitly framed to assess emotions at the workplace. The STEM assesses stable and current emotions for 5 positive and 5 negative emotions: affection, anger, anxiety, attentiveness, energy, contentment, envy, guilt, shame, joy, pride, and sadness. As opposed to the PANAS, people filling out the STEM are not only provided the emotion word, but also a definition of that emotion, and several example situations in which that emotion is usually felt from the work setting. Also, STEM assesses stable and current emotions at the same time, that is, people are asked to mark the extent to which they felt each emotion €3 during your most recent day of work €3 and separately €3 how you generally feel when you are working €3. Another unique characteristic of the STEM is that it does not employ a standard Likert scale that uses the same words to describe the points of the scale. Instead, several points of the scale are labeled with more precise emotion words related to the emotion in question. For example, the scale for joy uses €3 amiably €3 as midpoint, €3 cheerful €3 to mark 8/10 and €3 happy €3 as positive extreme. Measures of negative affect STAXI equals, the state trait anger expression inventory has been developed as a 44-item questionnaire to assess stable and current intensity of the expression of anger. Its current version is the STAXI2, which has also been adapted for the use with children and adolescents. The STAXI-2 distinguishes between the 3 modes of anger expression: anger out, anger in and anger control. Anger out refers to a tendency to express anger through either verbal or physical behaviors. Anger in or suppressed anger refers to the tendency to hold one's anger on the inside without any outlet. Anger control refers to the tendency to engage in behaviors intended to reduce overt anger expression. ARS equals, the anger rumination scale is a measure for the tendency to focus attention on angry moods, recall past anger experiences, and think about the causes and consequences of anger episodes. The questionnaire includes 19 items that assess 4 distinct aspects of anger: angry afterthoughts, thoughts of revenge, angry memories and understanding of causes. The items that contribute to each of these 4 scales have been shown to be answered in a highly similar way, that is, they have high internal consistency. STAS equals, the state trait anger scale includes 10 items and initially constructed with 2 subscales: state anger, defined as an emotional state or condition that consists of subjective feelings of tension, annoyance, irritation, fury and rage. Trait anger, defined in terms of individual differences in the frequency that anger was experienced over time. The scores on both subscales were found to be unrelated to each other. While responses to all items of the anger scale were found to be equally related to this same scale, this was not true for the T-anger scale. The T-anger scale was therefore divided in 2 subscales: angry temperament which describes the disposition to express anger and angry reaction, which describes anger responses. See also, affect, emotion classification, self-report inventory. References: Watson, D. Clark, L.A. T. Legend, A Development and Validation of Brief Measures of Positive and Negative Affect, the PANAS Scales. Journal of Personality and Social Psychology 54. Crawford, John R. Henry, Julie D. The Positive and Negative Affect Schedule, Construct Validity, Measurement Properties and Normative Data in a Large Non-Clinical Sample. British Journal of Clinical Psychology 43, 245 265 doi, 10.1348/0144665031752934. A. B. Watson, D., and Clark, L. A. The PANASX, Manual for the Positive and Negative Affect Schedule Expanded Form. Iowa City, University of Iowa, 1, Kirchner, K. Assessing Subjective Well-Being in the Old. The PANAS is a measure of orthogonal dimensions of positive and negative affect. Research on Aging 14, 131 168. Thompson, E.R. Development and Validation of an Internationally Reliable Short Form of the Positive and Negative Affect Schedule. Journal of Cross-Cultural Psychology, Vol. 38, 2, 227-242. Edward L. Levine and Xian Zhu Development and Validation of the State Trait Emotion Measure. The 20th Annual Conference of the Society for Industrial and Organizational Psychology, April 2005, Los Angeles, ABC. Levine, E. L., Zhu, X., Yang, L. Q., Hispers, D., Pitaru, H. D., Bin, R. and Masat, S. Cross-National Explorations of the Impact of Affect at Work Using the State Trait Emotion Measure, a coordinated series of studies in the United States, China, and Romania. Human Performance, 24, 5, 405-442. Spielberger, C.D., 1988. Manual for the State Trait Anger Expression Inventory, Psychological Assessment Resources, Odessa, Florida, Spielberger, C.D. State Trait Anger Expression Inventory. O. S. Giunti, Firenze, Italy. Del Barrio, B., Aluja, A., and Spielberger, C. Anger Assessment with the STAXICA, Psychometric Properties of a New Instrument for Children and Adolescents. Personality and Individual Differences, 37, 2, 227-244. D. G. Suchodolsky, A. Golub, E. N. Cromwell Development and Validation of the Anger Rumination Scale, Personality and Individual Differences, 2001, pages 689-700, Spielberger, C. D., Jacobs, G., Russell, S., and Crane, R. S. Assessment of Anger, the State Trait Anger Scale, in C. D. Spielberger and J. N. Butcher Advances in Personality Assessment, Lawrence Elbaum Associates Incorporated.